with diluted focus comes diluted results. And I'm someone who has so many ambitions and so many goals. And sometimes if we're focused on too many different areas, the amount of progress we can make within one area is limited. Where if we spend all of our energy that we put into these 10 different areas of our life or in our work into one specific area, one platform, one mission, the amount of growth we could make within that one area is wild. She said, you're just as successful as you've programmed yourself to be. You don't need more time, you just need a deadline. And I can so relate to this, and I'm sure you can too, how if we have a full week to complete something, we're gonna take the full week to complete it. But if someone told us, you get $10,000 if you complete this task by today, you better believe we're gonna be able to complete the task in that one day, right?
Hi, my name is Pernilla, and this is my Challenge Your Norm podcast. I'm absolutely obsessed with anything related to personal development. And well, to grow, we gotta challenge our norm. And so on this podcast, we chat about life and how we can challenge our normal way of living it to make it greater than we could have ever imagined. Just one little belief, habit, bold move, and challenge at a time.
Hello, my beautiful friend, and welcome back to another episode on my Challenge Your Norm podcast, where today I want to set you up for absolute massive transformation for the final 90 days of 2024, or 60 days, or 30 days, or whenever you're listening to this episode. I just want you to spend the next 3 months applying the tools, the powerful messages that will be spoken about in today's episode. And these messages are not just some that I have come up with, because I was at the Summit of Greatness for the 3rd year in a row, and I listened to some of the world's most powerful, extraordinary speakers at this event. And I have, in this episode, put together the main messages that were spoken about during this event. And the crazy, incredible thing is that whether it was Joe Dispenza speaking, who comes from a scientific but also very spiritual background, and believing that you can, with your mindset, with your thoughts, go in and literally change the cells within your body and heal in the most magical of ways, or it comes to someone like David Goggins, who probably potentially has the most crazy life story of all time and is the representation of how someone who grew up in the most miserable of circumstances and has the most limiting beliefs and mindset, how someone can go out and completely turn that around. I also want to share messages from Esther Perel when it comes to relationships, Cody Sanchez when it comes to building incredible wealth, and Rory Vaden when it comes to using your life to help and impact other people's lives. And there were more speakers, but I'll just touch on a few of these in this episode. And the most wild thing is that, as I started saying, but then never completed, is that all of these speakers who I listened to all applied this one strategy. They all spoke about how if you want to change your life, firstly, you have to get uber clear on what that looks like, what that feels like, really having absurd clarity on this thing that you want. And secondly, to visualize it, as in see it, feel it, be it. This next level version of yourself. Embody this human that is capable, that has accomplished this vision that you want for your life. And the incredible thing is that, just like you, these are things that I have done in the past many times, and it's practices I've applied in my life. But the beautiful thing about self-development is that you can never hear these things enough, because there's always deeper levels, more work to do. You know, people talk about this idea that you're either growing or you're going backwards. Like, you're not ever actually stagnant. You're either growing or moving backwards. And I feel like for me to continuously be growing and evolving, I have to always be reminded and listen to and hear these powerful messages and learn more about these tools, or at least re-listen to them, because that just motivates me, gets me excited to question myself on what that looks like for me, and continuously wanting to reapply these different tools into my day-to-day life, because I have a lazy brain, which is something David Goggins talked about, how he also just his natural habitat is like laziness. And that's why he has to keep practicing these things and push himself outside of his comfort zone to continuously live in this state, be this person that he deep down wants to be. Yes, he has a resume of someone who's accomplished insane levels of extraordinary, phenomenal things in his life. But if he doesn't continuously push himself, continuously practice these things that he's been practicing ever since he started shifting his self-identity, he will go back to being, in his words, a lazy piece of shit. So I just really resonate with that, because I can feel that every time I get a little bit comfortable, I don't feel as good. Yes, I'll have like shorter seasons of really diving into just relaxation, but then that's a level of growth in itself, right? Like sometimes we have a season where we need to take a step back from doing to feel. And then that becomes, in those seasons, that's the challenging part for me. It's to feel and it's to relax, maybe when I've had a season of go, and it's hard for me to allow my brain and myself to step back into that. So all of that to say that no matter how many times I've heard this, I think that there are always new lessons to be learned. And I feel like the more we grow and evolve as humans, the more deeper levels we can step into within the same lessons, within the same messages. Because as we know, it's like we can read a book and then we come back to it a year later, and there's like all these different messages within that book that we didn't take in the first time, because we weren't at that place in our development at that time. So I want to start off by giving you the most key lessons that Joe Dispenza preached and shared, which I'm sure you all know who he is. But if you don't, and you're someone who wants to rewire your brain or step into that next level of your potential or heal issues you've been dealing with in your body, I highly recommend looking into him. His book, Becoming Supernatural, is powerful beyond belief. Beyond anything. So that's a book I highly recommend. I've listened to him for many years at this point. So a lot of the things he shared, I have, heard many times, but something that he always talks about is really getting clear on what is your biggest vision. And I hope that as you're listening to this podcast, this is something that you're continuously questioning yourself on throughout. Like, what is the bigger vision you want for your life? What is that thing that you deep down want? And really, when you've gained clarity on that, asking yourself, how would this person feel, act, think, be, and do? Because when you know what you want, and you know how this person, this version of you would show up for yourself in that life, you can start practicing living that now. This is something he speaks about a lot, is when you start showing up, feeling, embodying this version of you now, you start attracting it. And he's someone who's proven on an actual scientific level how when you start feeling these emotions now, it literally goes in and changes your cells. In his summits, he has had so many people heal years of, it's actually mind-blowing. He showed examples of people who'd gained back their sight, who'd stood up from their wheelchairs, who'd literally been in their wheelchairs for life, or I don't know, however long, but healed cancer and all these different huge illnesses through stepping into this field of abundance. And something that both he and all these other speakers spoke about is showing up when you don't feel like it. It's making it the habit. And it's oftentimes when we don't feel like it that we need it the most. At least it is for me. It's when I don't feel like meditating, which I've been doing every day for 6 years at this point. It's often those days that we really need it. So when you feel the most annoyed is maybe when you should take a moment, take a deep breath, meditate, journal, and step into this future version of yourself. And his words were, keep living in that and keep falling in love with your future. And he uses these methods a lot when it comes to meditating. And he shares how I'm not getting up from this meditation until I've actually believed so much in my future that I feel like I'm already living in it, which leads us perfectly into Cody Sanchez, which she spoke about embodying this when it came to creating wealth and abundance financially. She said, you're just as successful as you've programmed yourself to be, which literally is exactly what Joe Dispenza was speaking about, but just through a different perspective. She says, you don't need more time, you just need a deadline. And I can so relate to this, and I'm sure you can too, how if we have a full week to complete something, we're going to take the full week to complete it. But if someone told us, you get $10,000 if you complete this task by today, you better believe we're gonna be able to complete the task in that one day, right? So sometimes I think I personally, and maybe you too, procrastinate on things just because we don't have that level of urgency. We don't have to get it done in a certain amount of time. But what if we were to set ourselves these deadlines? Think of how much closer we could get to our goal constantly. I see that within my YouTube challenges. Like if I set myself, like I have 30 days to complete this thing, then I better show up every single day because otherwise I'm not going to actually get the thing done. Or you have a boss that tells you that you have to get a work task complete in a certain time, and then you make sure that you do it because otherwise, who knows, maybe you'll get fired or something. But how can we set these deadlines in our own life when it comes to our personal ambitions and purpose and goals that we want to achieve? How can we apply this? How can we set ourselves these deadlines? Does that mean we have to have an accountability group, or does that mean we have to, tell ourselves that if we don't complete this thing, then we have something that's going to happen to us, or, whatever way we can set ourselves up for success? That if we don't succeed at showing up for ourselves every single day, then we have to, give a certain amount of money to something that we maybe potentially don't want to give a lot of money to. Like, how can we assure that we set ourselves a deadline and stick to it? And something that's important to keep in mind, which her words were, getting rich is boring work. You're not where you want to be because you've been doing what you wanted, not what is required. And I think I can say that about myself. Whenever I'm not getting where I want to go, whether it's been within my fitness journey, or it's been within my business, or it's been within my relationships, it's because I've been doing what I wanted and not what was required to get to that next level of my life that I wanted to do. And something I like to question myself on, that I hope you want to question yourself on today, is this thing that you want. If you haven't been getting it, in what way have you been doing the thing that you wanted rather than what is actually required for you to get there? And something that I find helpful is sometimes looking to see the people who have succeeded at it. How can I gain inspiration? What are they doing that I'm potentially not doing? Where I'm maybe sometimes potentially even making it harder on myself than what it really needs to be. Because if we can find inspiration in others who are succeeding at it, then sometimes it makes it a lot easier for us. I feel like that's a perfect leading into Rory Vaden, which I'm just going to share a few words on. But he helps personal brands see enormous amount of success in the impact that they have on others. And if you're someone who has a personal brand, maybe this could be useful for you, because a line that he has shared throughout multiple of these School of Greatness events that I've attended to, a line that has really stuck with me is, with diluted focus comes diluted results. And I'm someone who has so many ambitions and so many goals. And sometimes if we're focused on too many different areas, the amount of progress we can make within one area is limited. Where if we spend all of our energy that we put into these 10 different areas of our life or in our work, into one specific area, one platform, one mission, then the amount of growth we could make within that one area is wild. So maybe this sentence can stick out to you as well. If you're someone who has so many goals, which we'll get to as well when we start talking about David Goggins, his approach, or he had this massive, incredible message to someone who's like, where should I start? I don't know what to do. I have so many goals. I don't know, what should I do? So stick around for that. But this sentence of, with diluted focus comes diluted results, where when we have insane amount of clarity, which comes back to the whole point of this episode of get clear on what you want and visualize it and embody it. And so if you're someone who has a personal brand, let's say, or just business in general, or you're working within a business, something that he really wanted us all to hone in on was, what is the one problem you're solving? Every single business who's gained success, it's because they have narrowed their focus to solving their one big problem that their customers were facing. And to give you some examples I have a Summit of Greatness notebook. I wrote so many notes. I am literally that nerd at these events that just like keeps writing because I love having it to look back on. But I also have heard that your brain takes in more valuable information when you're writing notes while you're listening. So I like to be that nerd. Actually, I want to share something real quick because when I first started taking notes at these events that I go to and other people weren't, I would be like a little embarrassed of, doing something that not other people were doing. But then I started realizing that when I would do it, first of all, I decided, okay, Pernilla, that's silly. Just take your freaking notes. But then something I also noticed was that when I then would sit next to people, maybe people I knew, maybe people I didn't know, was that they started taking notes as well. So it's the same of like last week's episode of like you're embarrassed to start eating healthy in front of friends who maybe aren't on that journey and you're fearful of getting judged about that. It's like if you start doing something, yes, maybe you will be judged by some, but by others, you may actually inspire them to do the same and to show up in a better way for themselves in their life. So just a little side note on that. But going back to this idea of solving one issue for your customer, and he gave some examples, which is Brené Brown, which I hope you know is focused on shame. It's her one area of focus and the one thing that she helps the people that she speaks to with. Dave Ramsey, depth. Tony Robbins, pain. Lewis Howes, self-doubt. Mother Teresa, poverty. So like they all had this one thing that they focused on helping the person they were speaking to with. And it's something that I really dug into. It was hard for me to find mine. And I'm still kind of struggling with it, but I have found one that, well, thinking about it now, I feel is very clear. I don't know if I want to share it. I think I need to still work on it, but it does feel right as I'm thinking about it right now. But what's yours? If you're someone who, whether you're just posting for fun on social media or you actually have like a thriving business, what is the one thing that you're speaking to that you're helping these people who are following you or who you're trying to provide helpful, useful, valuable insights, guidance to? What's the one issue that you're solving, the one challenge that you're helping them solve? And then when Esther Perel came onto the stage, she was speaking with Lewis Howes and shared a bunch of just awesome, incredible, valuable information when it comes to your relationships in your life. And I won't be speaking to this too much because I want us to go into David Goggins, which every single person that I spoke with from that summit was like, yeah, the highlight was David Goggins. For me, it was too. And I feel like I can relate so much to that man. He's just a much more extreme version, obviously, but yeah, incredible. But one thing I want to share about Esther Perel's message is something that I think we've all heard as well before, but it's like we want our partner to have it all, right? We want them to be everything for us. We want them to be perfect. And if they're not perfect, we get annoyed, frustrated, whatever it is we do. First of all, are we ourselves all of those things, or do we come with flaws as well? I definitely come with flaws. And secondly, that our romantic partner can't be everything for us. It is okay that our romantic partner adds to our life in, let's say, 10 different ways, but that then we have that one girlfriend that we can speak to about our passion about horse riding. And then we have that other friend at the office who we can share our interest when it comes to financial growth. And then we have our boat sailing friends who we love going boat riding with on the weekends. I'm obviously just like making up a bunch of different things right now, but just keeping in mind that it's okay to have other relationships who also add value to our life. And then when we get filled from all these different cups, both obviously from the inside of what we give ourselves, but also that we have other people in our life who also add to us, then when we're in our relationship, in our intimate relationship, we can then focus on adding value to it and making it as good as it can be with everything that we have within that and grow within that. And she also just spoke about this idea of like, how can we do things to keep our love alive? How can we add to the relationship? Because when we start looking at it from how can I add to this, then it just naturally gets better. And something that Lewis shared when they had their conversation was, I knew I had to change my relationship with myself to be able to change it with others. And that's something I can relate to. It's like every time I've really filled up my own cup, it's funny how everyone else just seems to be incredible humans, everyone around me, where if I don't feel good within, suddenly it feels like there's something wrong with this person, that other person maybe didn't say the sentence that I wanted them to say it to me. And it's like, then we focus on the negative. So when we really focus on learning to love ourselves and filling our own cup up, our relationships just naturally become 1,000 times better. It really is just a reflection of our relationship with ourselves, right? Every relationship in our life is a reflection of the relationship we have with ourselves. I have worked with judgment of myself since I was 18. That was the first ever therapy session I had. And what she really taught me in that therapy session was how when I see something negative in others or judge something negative in others, it's because I judge it within myself. I haven't learned to love that part of myself. And the most life-changing perspective and work I've done has been every time I get frustrated with something someone else is doing, or at least my energy gets affected by it, it's because there's more love to learn to love within myself. If I think someone is being selfish, I need to learn to love my selfish side more. If I feel like someone is being too loud, it's because I need to learn to love my loudness side of myself. That's something I've spoken about a lot on this podcast, and it's more something for another episode because I want to get to David Goggins because he is someone who truly embodies and showcases someone who has gone from feeling like a piece of shit, is what his words are, feeling like a victim, feeling like someone who did not have control of their life, and stepping into extraordinary levels of humanity. Like it's wild what that individual has done. If you need an empowerment boost, you should read his book, Can't Hurt Me. I've listened to the book so many times going to the gym, and it's just been freaking powerful, which, by the way, we're starting my October Transformation Challenge tomorrow. And everything I'm sharing here, all the tools that I provide in that challenge are to create this vision for your future, to then embody it, create a clear action plan, and live that life now. It's wild for me to see the transformations that happen for the individual. So join my challenge. I'm very, very, very passionate about these challenges because I see how it changes people's lives and because I felt it on my own body on how it changed my life. And if you want to make such a drastic David Goggins shift, Joe Dispenza shift, like I really believe that this challenge could provide you all the tools for you to get there and spend these final 90 days of the year actually making this happen for yourself. I want that for you. You're more than capable. And sometimes if we have some clear guidelines and some clear structures and some clear self-work tools, which you will be getting, as well as workouts and nutrition, obviously guidance. There's our meal plan examples so that you can make it work in whatever way you want to. I really believe that my challenges are what you need. I'm so passionate about it, and I'm committed to changing as many people's lives as I can with my challenges. So sign up in the link in the description if that's something you want to be a part of. The community is just beautiful. You can listen to last week's episode if you want to get an idea of what it's like to be inside of the community, because it's wild and beautiful and powerful. We spoke about nutrition specifically and how to stay consistent with your nutrition on a fitness journey when it's challenging, when you're out and about, when you're with friends, when you're traveling, all that stuff. And something that we dig into in my challenges and that David Goggins has preached about for years is how he stopped lying to himself. And that's something I can so relate to because I used to tell myself so many lies, and I still do, but it's about catching the lies of like, I can't do that because of this and this and this, or it's so hard for me to do that because of this and this and this, where it's like, if you get really clear on what you want, this is something I've noticed, if I get really clear on what it is, suddenly it's not hard anymore because I'm so committed that my goal is this and I want it because of whatever reason I want it. It's going back to this idea of like that I shared in the beginning. If I have a deadline to finish a project by the end of the day and I'll get $10,000 if I do that, then heck yeah, I'm going to make it happen. It's the same idea. If you're focusing on how can I make this work rather than I can't do it because of whatever excuses we have, limiting beliefs that we've created throughout our life, we can make it work. David Goggins, literally broke his legs. Like they were broken while he was going through his military extremities tests. And he every morning would wake up before everyone else so that he could tape his legs together so that he could go do his run and all of the things that they had to go through on that day. He said, well, if I'm still physically capable of running, I'm not gonna run. Yes, of course, if I literally can't anymore, then I can't. But if I can, I'm going to do whatever the frick it takes to make that happen. And I think it's a powerful message because many of us say, I can't quit my late night eating because it's hard. Where it's like, if I told you that tomorrow you would wake up with the craziest six pack and the most beautiful booty and body, if you just today decided to not eat that ice cream, I'm pretty sure most of us would choose to not eat that ice cream on that day because it would just take us one day. But the reality is, if you have a physical goal, it's just about applying that every night, because then suddenly also the habit disappears of eating the ice cream every night, but you're also going to feel like you feel so much better in your energy levels and you're feeling so proud of yourself because you're actually aligning your actions with what it is that you deep down want. So this idea that we can't do something or whatever lies we're telling ourselves, it's really all just made up. And if we were to start just seeing the lies for what they are and finding solutions and committing to what we want, then we would start showing up so differently and just create the most magical new experiences and ways of feeling and living than we probably most likely could ever imagine at this very moment. So getting clear on the lies, and something he even also spoke about, which makes so much sense, is that he visualized the future he wanted for himself. He was overweight, lazy, had the most limiting mindset as to what he was not capable of doing. And he started visualizing this new version, this new life that he wanted to create for himself. And through that vision, he got up every day and aligned his actions with what it was that he deep down wanted to do. And something he spoke about when it came to other people thinking he was crazy for showing up in the way that he did. What he mentioned and what he said that he would tell people was, I'm not crazy, I'm just not you. So he literally sets the standards for himself so high that he doesn't even want people's limiting beliefs put on him. I'm not crazy, I'm just not you. And maybe that's something that you can apply in your life when you feel like you're setting yourself these massive goals and people don't understand. It's like, I'm not crazy, I'm just not you. And you don't even have to say it. You can just think it in your mind, right? People don't have to understand. It's not their vision, it's your vision. And there's a reason it's placed in your mind and not theirs. Something that he mentioned that I've tried many times throughout my life, and I feel when I've actually done it, it's made such massive shifts in my life. It's this idea of the one thing that you don't want to be doing is probably the one thing you should look at and do. Going back to your fitness journey, for example, if you keep eating all that ice cream and you've wanted to not look at it, but in the back of your mind, you know that that's the one thing. If you change that one thing, it would kind of switch everything around for yourself, because you would start aligning your actions with what you deep down want, and it would make you feel better energy wise, which would make you more productive at work and have more energy for your kids or whatever one thing it is that you've been avoiding actually looking at. And what he spoke about also, which I feel I've felt so much in my own body whenever I have shown up for myself in the way that I've deep down wanted and actually looked at some of those things that I've been avoiding, is how when we do the hard shit, as he would say, we start building confidence. We start building this self-belief, and we start feeling a level of fulfillment that cannot be felt if we are not embodied into the version of ourselves that we deep down want to be, right? We've all experienced showing up for ourselves and completing something really challenging and experienced how that made us feel. There's no words that can describe the feeling we experience when we show up for ourselves and prove to ourselves just how capable we are. And he spoke about this idea of how we have two voices, and that, yes, maybe currently our excuse voice, our lazy voice, the voice that will continuously keep us safe, maybe is loudest at this one point. And that's one of our voices. But we also have another voice, and we can strengthen that other voice, the strong voice that catches our excuses, that stays on track and on top of aligning our actions with what it is that we deep down want, with our goals, with this vision that we've created for ourselves. And we can strengthen that voice so that that takes over control. So it's no longer our lazy voice that takes over control, but we strengthen that voice that knows what the right thing for us is in any given moment is to do. And the way that I personally have strengthened that voice, sometimes it's very strong, sometimes it's less strong, but when it's very strong, I'm very good about constantly reminding myself of my goal, constantly having that clear vision in my mind, constantly listening to people like David Goggins or other podcasts that motivate and inspire me. I'm hoping that my podcast, if you're someone who listens to it, I'm hoping that in some way strengthens that voice that will lead you towards the things that you deep down want in your life. I meditate so that I'm connected to myself, and journal, obviously, which is something that I do every day, as well as something that you will be doing if you join my challenges. And the people who do the journaling are like, this has literally changed my life. I do think that, everything starts in the mind. So if we do these practices with our mind, then we then will show up for our workouts, which is another way to strengthen that strong voice in our head. Because when I push myself physically and keep going when I don't want to show up and I feel tired, in the workout, and I keep doing that extra rep, then I prove to myself, wow, I'm really capable. I'm really freaking strong. I can really freaking do challenging things. And then that voice gets strengthened as to believing that, wow, I can really do crazy, cool things. And then that, strengthens so that it gets little by little stronger than the lazy voice. So maybe that's something that you can be reminded of as well, is like, what is the voice that is taking over in your mind, and how can you strengthen that other voice, the voice that actually roots for and wants for you to thrive and succeed in you reaching the goals that you want, so that you can live the life that you deep down want, so that you can make this vision that you've created for yourself come true. And the last thing that I found so powerful from specifically David Goggins' speech was, at the end, he made this like Q&A, and a bunch of people had questions. But one of the things that spoke to me, that I know will speak to a lot of you, because I think a lot of us people out here want to achieve a lot of things. A woman, she asked the question, or shared that she has so many things that she wants to do in her life, like a whole list of things. And with all of these things that she wants to do, it almost becomes overwhelming because she doesn't know where to start. And what he said was, do them all. He said, I have wanted to do so many things in my life. And what I've done is I've started with anything. I've just started going after one thing, put all my focus into that one thing. And then once I've completed that one thing, then moved on to the next. And he said, I've had so many goals in my life that I wanted to accomplish and do and be and go for, and I've accomplished them all. And it's going back to this theme that we've mentioned throughout many times throughout this podcast of, with diluted focus comes diluted results, like the clarity and the specific knowing of what it is that you want, and having narrowed in focus on this one thing right now. Because once that's accomplished, then we can move on to the next. And wanting to do all the things, will potentially never get any of it. But if we hone in on that one thing, we can move, progress, and really, truly accomplish all of these things that we want in our life. And just like everyone else who's gone for big hopes and dreams, he failed at everything at first. He sucked at first. I've sucked at everything I've started at first. Everything. I failed time and time again. But the people who succeed, they just get up and they do it again. This is even something Cody Sanchez, the wealth girl, shared, that the people who succeed, they take risks. And yes, they make a ton of mistakes, but they take risks and they move fast. So I'm hoping that throughout this episode, as you've been listening to me chat and share these key takeaways from my Summit of Greatness experience, which, by the way, if you want to join Summit of Greatness next year, I'll put the link in the show notes. It is powerful beyond words. Experiencing a group of people with such growth mindseted energy, it shifts something within you. And you leave the summit feeling so extremely excited about what you want to go out there and create and do and be. So I'll put the link below if you want to be there next year, which is going to be in Hollywood, which makes it very convenient for me because then I can just drive there. But my hope is that you listening to this episode, that you get uber clear on what it is that you want for the next 90 days of your year, regardless of when you listen to this episode. Uber clear. And you may need to sit down with your journal for the next hour and journal on this, all the takeaways, create a plan, and then freaking go for it. If you will allow me to be a part of that journey, I would love to have weekly conversations with you and chat with you every single day inside of our community group and give you all the tools you need to succeed. But if you know what it is for yourself and you know how to get there, then all you got to do is just freaking show up for yourself and make it happen. In the community, I just want to say we're very good at, like, if someone has something they want to do and they want to be kept accountable, we do accountability groups and keep each other accountable throughout like each of the conversations that we have every week. So that's something we can help you with. But if you have a community in your surroundings, like, share it with them. Of course, only share your vision with people who you trust and know want the best for you and are in the same like mindset space for you. But do this for you, because in 90 days, massive transformation can happen in your life. When I first went on my fitness journey, it was 90 days it took for me to like make that complete shift. And what if you started January 1st of 2025 feeling like your strongest, best, most evolved self? Like, wouldn't that be awesome? Showing up when you don't feel like it, continuously reminding yourself of your goal, continuously visualizing that clear vision that you've created for yourself, and focusing and honing in on what that is. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked it, it would mean the world to me if you would give me a review, give me some stars, subscribe, like whatever platform you're listening to it. I love these conversations, and I'm looking forward to many more to come. Thank you. I hope you go out there today, create that vision for yourself, and do whatever it takes to make it happen. I believe in you. I know you can do this. And as always, remember that in order for you to grow, you have to challenge your norm. Bye.